Today's couples love planning their weddings with Zola. That's why it's the fastest growing wedding platform. It's got everything couples need for their entire wedding planning journey, including finding their venue, their planner, and their vendors. And wedding pros love Zola, the sponsor of today's episode, just as much as couples do. And I'll tell you why later in this episode. Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner with the Wedding Biz, a podcast that provides both education and inspiration for those of us in or interested in the weddings and event industry. If you missed last week's episode, it was a brand new conversation with the incredibly popular floral designer Kiana Underwood of Tulipina. Today's is a special episode in that I talk about various aspects of taking on a business partner, and I had this conversation with my own business partner of Kushner Entertainment, and that's with Robert Sherman. Robert is also the owner of Washington Talent, the iconic entertainment company out of the Washington D.C. area, founded 55 years ago, which Robert eventually took over and transformed, bringing it to a whole other level. Robert is a guy who is clearly passionate and fully committed to what he does, and we heard all about how he had evolved himself and his business back in episode 206. And again, today we talk about all about putting together a partnership and running it with Kushner Entertainment, and that is with Robert Sherman. So, Robert, it's been 3 years since we started the partnership, and it was right before the pandemic that it was effective. But I think we should go back in time because and talk a little bit about our history, because we met like 25 years ago or something like that, but we didn't really know each other all that well. And I remember the way we started this. It's not like we just got together and said, let's talk about doing a partnership. We started hanging out. Do you remember weekly for like a year? It was a year.
It was a year before we actually decided, hey, we're going to do this. It was a year.
But I don't remember if we got together because we were thinking of a partnership. I don't remember that.
Well, you and I have a slight disagreement on this memory. Remember, I remember that Washington Talent was representing some of your bands, but not very well, I might add. And I found out from one of my salespeople that you had fired us. You had fired us, and that we could no longer represent your bands. And I picked up the phone and called you, and I said, "Hey, Andy, I've known you for 30 years. Couldn't you call me? I deserve to be fired. I admit it. But couldn't you just call me and fire me directly?"
That is not how it went.
That is exactly how it happened. And you started laughing, and I started laughing, and we ended up having our first lunch together.
No, what happened was I had one of the people who work for me call you all and say,
"No, you know what? You're right. You probably did that." You laughed, I laughed, we had lunch together, and that was...
Well, and the timing was, I want to say for me, I had been doing this for, I think, 27 years, and I was feeling burnt. You know, I was tired of, in terms of people working for me, how to really run the company. And I have to admit, I started putting my head in the sand, you know, and I was leaving it a little too much to others because I was getting really fried.
Well, I can understand that because I was slightly different. I was still getting fried, but for different reasons than you. I think when I met you, I told you I was just... You know, I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, and I won't tell you how old I am now, but it's been a long time. Let me just leave it at that. And I love the industry, but it was getting to be monotonous to me a little bit, and I was doing the same old thing, and I wasn't changing.
Right,
and
same here.
With you, it was it gave me an opportunity to grow, and it also gave me an opportunity to get a different perspective. You know, when you run your own thing for so many years and you get older, we all know that we get set in our ways.
Right.
And I
was
really set in my ways. And you came in, and the way you did business was so different than the way I did it. And I felt it was a great learning opportunity. I really did. And that has definitely not been a disappointment for me. I have learned a ton of new ways and new ways of thinking about this business.
Well, I can say the exact same thing. I mean, the way I ran my business, I kept it small, you know, like you got a whole bunch of agents. I at one point I had like one working for me in addition to me, whereas you had like 6, 7, 8, and you expanded and you had video and photography and photo booths. And I wanted to keep it more this boutique kind of an idea. So you were more of a volume based business. And then I also had this thing about, wanting to, my brand was this very kind of luxe end. And, you know, for a long time, we were flying all over the world and working with major luxe planners and all of that. But I started to realize that there was so much business just in my backyard. And I don't feel that I really gave it enough focus. I was going for these big things and I had gotten a certain amount of it. But being, in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area, there was so much opportunity, and yes, I had a certain amount of it, but you were the king of the hill in terms of that local market, and I started to realize that. Not so much not wanting to work as hard. I mean, these out-of-town jobs were a lot of work, but they were also a lot of fun, and they were very bonding for the bands and exciting for myself. But again, we were kind of ignoring this incredible local opportunity that you had wrapped up. So when we got together, that was one of the goals that I wanted, was to be able to kind of do it in a different way, maybe not always have the highest pricing, and readjust. And tell me something about that, because again, you're more volume based and it works for you.
Well, that was, again, look what's happened in the last 3 years with us. We still do big jobs. I mean, out of town jobs. We've got us in
combining forces.
Yes, you've got us in Punta Cana. You've got us all over the place that we're playing in. Out of the DC area. And yet we're much bigger in the local market with our bands.
Yes.
So that goal of yours and mine worked together, because I wasn't doing jobs that were outside the DC area. I was pretty much, that's where I was. And you obviously weren't doing as much there. And so we combined together, and now we're getting both, which is a great situation. But I always concentrated on local, because that's where I lived. That's where I was. That's what I knew. And also the company, Washington Talent, had been around for 55 years. So,
right.
So, when I became an owner, it was already established there. So I just expanded on it. You gave me the opportunity because we've got really great groups that are definitely Lux, and that can do it all. They're chameleons. They can do it all. And now they have an opportunity to play all these different gigs. And I think that's great for the entertainers too. I think what we did is our partnership together definitely helped everybody, the entertainers and us.
Yeah, I want to talk too about the style in which we partner, because I think that's really interesting too. From what I know, there's really two different philosophies about it. There's partnering, and it's more of a business relationship, and you don't want to necessarily get so personal. Then there's the other side, which is really becoming friends. And I went into this, Robert, in the beginning thinking, I don't know if I want to get too close. I don't know I wonder if there's some ways in which that could harm the business aspect of the partnership. Whereas the way you work, from what I understand with other kind of, if you want to call them partnerships that you have, is that you want to be really great friends first. And so even just from getting together weekly for almost a year to talk about how we might work together, I felt very close to you. We really became friends.
Every business book would probably tell you that my theory on this and my practice is probably not the best, because everyone says keep business and personal separate, all that stuff. I don't know. I have a theory on this that if we're in business and you do something that affects my ability to support my family, that's personal. I mean, take it any way you want.
Right.
At the end of the day, in the business that we're in a business of people. All of the entertainers that we represent, they're my friends. They're really contractors of ours. Well, you know what? They're actually partners. All of them are really partners, just like you and I are in just in different ways. And I argue that friendship thing is really important. And with you and me for that year, I think I told you a bunch of times I wanted to be your friend. Now, because I want to have fun. I wanted to enjoy the business. I wanted to be able to, look where we are now. We're in sunny Florida recording a podcast.
Yeah, we're at a place that you have in Naples, Florida. I know, and it's amazing. We're hanging out.
Yeah, and we're doing business. I do realize that we've had a pretty great level of success right now as partners.
Yeah.
But we also hit the rock bottom. And in partnerships.
With that pandemic.
Yeah. And partnerships, look, when things are good, partnerships usually thrive. I mean, unless you've got one partner that's not doing what they're supposed to do or whatever, usually when things are good, nobody complains. What happens when things are bad is when there's a problem. And that's when the whole friendship thing becomes an issue. And Andy, you and I lived through the worst.
Absolutely.
There was zero jobs, zero income. We didn't throw stones at each other. We didn't say, oh, you're not doing this or you're not doing that. We worked together to try to do something when we came out of this to be the best we can be. We made new videos for bands. We kept in touch with all the guys that are the lifeblood of our business, which is our entertainers. We did everything we could to make it work. And what we didn't do was fight and argue over money. So I think that's in partnership, that's a big deal because the good is the good and the good is easy. It's when it's not so good that becomes a lot harder.
Well, and I want to add to this too, coming back to how I was starting to feel burnt out after doing this for so long. I was losing the fun aspect of it. You know, in terms of the music side of it, that's always fun. But the business side, it was not fun anymore. And having this friendship where we can just get together and have we could say anything to each other, right? And have great laughs and also complain and stuff like that. But having the friendship behind it has re-energized me completely because it's way more fun.
Absolutely. Like I said, look where we are. We're here. We're doing business. We're doing business while we're here in Florida together because we can travel together. We can be friends together. I completely agree. It makes the whole difference in the world. It really does. And then when you get down, you get down to it. When you have a personal relationship with somebody, you're friendly with them and you like them, it makes the business stronger because you want to do more. I go out of my way. I want to make you think I'm doing a great job, and that's not a business thing. That's a friendship thing. We're partners. I want you to think, hey, I'm doing my job, and I want to see you happy too. So it's so, I know we sound together like it's a marriage. It is absolutely a marriage.
Oh, no, a business partnership is also like a marriage. There's no question about it. Why is Zola the fastest growing wedding platform? Because Zola does things differently. They've created a subscription-free platform that works for wedding professionals with free listings tailored to what you do that makes your business look great. And there are no paid placements or stacked search results. They are all validated leads. Zola will match you with pre-qualified couples who they know are a good fit for your style and fee structure. If you want to connect, it's easy. And there are no annual fees or commitment. Just pay for the leads you are interested in at a price that's fair. You're in control. Then there's Zola's excellent customer support, ready to answer any question and help in any way. They'll even create your free listing for you. So grow your business with the wedding platform that's proud to do things differently. Go to zola.com/Andy. That's ZOLA.com/Andy to start your free listing and even make your first connections for free. Also, part of what comes out of the friendship side of it is being comfortable enough to bring up difficult topics and being able to trust. Like, I can trust you, Robert, that you're going to fully take it in. You're not going to have judgments.
That's probably one of the strongest points that can be made. And take case in point, we had that meeting the other day. And you, after the meeting was over, you felt comfortable enough with me as a friend, whatever. Remember, you said to me, "Hey, man, I know the meeting was kind of boring, but you got on your phone. You got on your phone a lot." Blah blah blah.
During a meeting,
and I looked at you and I said, "You're absolutely right." I got to tell you that if we weren't such good friends and we didn't have that trust, I might have taken, even though it was true, by the way. Let's make no bones, it was true. I might have got offended. I don't know how I would have reacted to it. But when you said it to me, it was like, damn right, I was wrong, man. I was on that phone. I was bored, and I was on my phone too much. So I believe those kind of interactions can happen positively when people trust each other, their friendship, and they trust each other.
Well, and I think part of why we've been able to do, not only are we just super compatible, but we also make it a point to get together regularly, which is really important as partners too, and not let anything build up. Communication is key. And you and I speak. I mean, we don't do it overwhelmingly. We don't meet all the time, but we at least speak at least once or twice a week about things, whether it be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or 20 minutes, or an hour. But communication is I think communication and trust are those two biggest things in that. And again, for a partnership.
And I'm talking about a marriage. I'm talking about everything you can get involved with.
Whatever it is. Well, and also the way that not only are we here in Naples at your beautiful home here, but we went and had a trip to New Orleans. And again, we had a lot of fun and we accomplished a lot of business too. And we came up with ideas and in that environment. I think that's important too for a partnership.
I agree. And again, those trips, you remember, we both laughed. We were talking about how long we were going to go. Neither one of us knew if we could travel with the other one. Right. So it was like we start out with 2 days. Yeah, right. Then we went to 3 days,
And now we're talking about let's do a week or trip, something, or something like that.
Well, you know what they say, opposites attract. And you and I was joking with you yesterday, we're Felix and Oscar.
For those who can remember that show from long ago.
Okay, so I'm dating myself. I told you when I started, I didn't tell you what I am now. Anyway, no, I think the that's important. I mean, like I said, we're opposites, and that makes a good thing. You're a compliment to what I'm weak at. You're strong, and I think vice versa.
Well, here's another thing too. To me, there's two aspects to this. There's the creative side of it. I mean, if we're going to try to put it into, let's say, two categories, there's the creative side of it. There's the strict business side of it. Both of us have skills in both areas. But I feel that you enjoy more than I do the structural, organizational, the business aspects of the business, whereas I much more enjoy the creative, and so that's another incredible balance between the two of us.
And again, I've said it 4 times in the podcast, maybe 5, and I'm sorry, but trust is everything. I trust you in that end. I really, I think you're better than me at it, but more importantly, I trust you to do it. And the proof's in the pudding. We've got these great new bands that we've put together, and they've got great videos, and they and that's the actual videos and the marketing material is the creative part of this, which you did a great job with. And you include me, you ask me, and I give you my opinion, but I really, it's all about trust. It's that I know you do it well, you're going to get it done. You know
what this extends to is, I'm going to call it the balance of responsibilities. I was a little not concerned about you personally, just in general about a business partnership. What about, are either of us going to ever feel the other person is doing more than the other or less than the other? And I do think it goes back and forth. There's times where it seems really even, other times where it's a little different. But I do feel like overall for us in this relationship that and there's no need to write it all on paper necessarily. It just feels like it's working.
Well, I think that the thing that has to be brought up, we've spent the last few minutes talking about how happy we are with each other, but nothing's perfect.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there are many times that I either upset you or I do something I wasn't supposed to do or I didn't do, and vice versa.
Very little, though.
Yeah, but it happens. And I think the thing that we should talk about is how you and I handle when we do have a few times that we've had, and because we've had it. How do we do it? Up. We talk about it. We don't let it go. And I think we kind of have a just like I say, just like in a marriage, we have the. I think I evaluate how important the subject is to you. You know what I'm saying? When we have a disagreement or an argument, if you're really adamant on something, and I'm not, I'm gonna be more, go to what you want to do because you care more about it than I do. So,
and I've had that vice versa,
and you feel the same
too.
way. I'm really hot on something. So I believe that, nothing's perfect in this world, and partnerships are like anything else. You're going to have your differences, but so far in 3 years, are different. I mean, we've had them, and I feel that every time we've worked them out in an amicable way, and we don't get how do I say it? We don't get nasty with each other. We realize we're both going for the same goal. The goal is the same. It's not like it's not like I'm going to bring up something to you that I want us to do worse with. We're just disagreeing on maybe ways to get there. That's all.
Yeah. Also, I'm thinking about, again, how we are together. I've learned a lot from you. And one of the things I always used to be very, what is the word? I would recognize people's efforts, and reward them and have my ways of motivating them. I think you're the king at that. You're the absolute king. And so together, we've now gotten to this point where these contractors who we have, I feel like better than ever as far as the relationship with them.
It's interesting because when we got together, I think we both talked about how much the relationship with the entertainers is so important. And again, it was interesting. We both talked about how much we enjoyed them. We enjoyed people. And I remember you were a little bit hesitant to. I
was a little more business though with them,
right. But that was something you were taught in school because that's what we're always taught in school. You're taught when you go to, you keep business, and personal, and obviously I have blown that to hell and back. I love these guys and these girls. I love them. I love the way they, I think I admire their talent, and I think that we reward and we try to reward, and they reward us, and I think it's a great relationship. But that makes it fun for me. Right. Working with people I'm friends with is it's fun for me. And some of my best friends are the guys that work with us.
Well, and also it's interesting when we have problems with people. You and I get together, we meet with them, and I no longer have. It's not that I never really felt fear in the past when I was by myself, but there was so much pressure because it was me by myself being in charge, and when I had to deal with problems with people, it was very uncomfortable. And now whenever there's an issue with a contractor, with somebody, we get together on it, we talk about it. I have someone to share it with. Sometimes we decide one of us will handle the situation after we discuss how to do it, or we'll do it together. And I feel so much more effective now.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. I was very fortunate. When I first started years ago, I was on my own, obviously, but I quickly expanded, and I had, people like John Hall, and John Hall was like a to me, meaning he was my partner. He was my friend, and he helped me with those kind of things. So I had it a little bit easier than you did when it came to that, because at the beginning I was all by myself, but then I had him, and now I've got you, and it's to not have to do it alone.
I'm completely re-energized by not doing this all alone.
And don't you think also that the entertainers, some of them, it's like any other relationship. Some of them get along better with you. Some get along better with me. The personalities,
that too.
And I think that's really, it is what it is.
Yeah, between the two of us,
not everybody loves my charming personality. What can I tell you?
Well, and also not just the way that we deal with issues with people, but also just problems within the business as a whole. I love that I no longer have that stress and that awful feeling in the pit of my stomach about how do I deal with this with some kind of a business problem, and now I'm able to call you. We're able to get together and talk it through. And again, it often goes back and forth, right? I might not know how to handle something and you know exactly what to do. And then vice versa. That happens too. We work it out together. And so I no longer feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm less reactive. I can just talk to you.
And we both talked the other day. You were telling me about how it now frees both of us up to do the things that we do best.
Yes.
And I think that was a great point.
I think that's the best part of it all.
Now we're not tied up in things that we don't. Look, in every business, you do some things you don't like to do. There's no way around that. But we both do less of them now because you're handling things that I don't like to do. I handle things you don't like to do.
You're right.
And I think that's, that's been an awesome thing for me.
Well, it's one of the reasons I'm so much happier in the business now. I mean, I can go more years now at this because of that.
Well, I would advise anybody, not partnerships are not the best for everybody. They're not the answer for everybody, but for many people there are, and finding the right partner is a very difficult thing. It's like finding the right doctor or the right lawyer or the right whoever. It's not everybody's right the first time around, and it's really hard because when you get into a partnership, it's a big risk. It's a very, very big risk, and it was a risk that we took together, and it worked out, at least from my perspective, and it sounds like from yours, and I'm happy about that. It works out great for us, and I'm ready for the next set of challenges. I know COVID's over. Well, hopefully COVID's over.
Yeah, right.
But I'm ready for the next challenge, whatever that might be.
Well, and look, there's talk about possible recession now. I am not as worked up about any of this as I used to be. I know that joining forces, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Well, but
I'm talking about with the recession. I'm not talking about in general.
I know. But seriously, I feel like we can handle any problem. It's having that attitude, that assumption that we will figure it out.
No, I agree, and it's real simple. It's not everybody is strong at everything, and I know I'm not strong at everything. So what you provide for me is something that I'm not. I'm really good at certain things, and I'll stay really good at those things. You come in and you add things that I'm not good at. So it makes me better. It makes the company better. And I think that's the key. And in all these partnerships is you got to find the partner that complements you. If you both do the same job, what did you grow? What happened?
Right.
And what's nice is we do have separation of powers, you and I, but yet we cross those lines a lot in both ends
when it's appropriate.
Well,
yeah.
and again, I like that. I can come to you and say, "Hey, Andy, what do you think about this expense? What do you think about us doing this? What do you about this marketing idea?" And I love talking to you about that. You've got talent in that area too. So, like I said, I think you take my strengths, add yours to my strengths, and I feel whole.
Yeah, I love it. Well, man, let's keep doing this. Every couple of years, we'll get back on the mics.
Yeah, absolutely. And to everybody out there thinking about a partnership, it's worked out great for us. So just share that with me. It's worked out great for us.
Yeah, it's worth serious consideration.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Robert Sherman. Be sure to check out both websites. First of all, the one that we partnered on, and that's KushnerEntertainment.com, and also Robert's other company, WashingtonTalent.com. You can get everything in the show notes, in your cell phone's podcast app, or at our website, oftheweddingbiz.com. And also remember to go to zola.com/Andy to create your free listing and get your first few connections for free. And next week, we are going to have a revisit of my original interview of the design and catering icon, Paula LeDuc. And finally, particularly with Instagram, subscribe to The Wedding Biz at The Wedding Biz, and we'll catch you next week.